Okay. Okay, so we are live, and hello to all of the participants of our event. Today we have special guest and special series like Innovation Elegance inside of the BA project inside their events. Today we have a really nice event like VUCA versus Elegance, a choice in innovation teamwork. Acronym VUCA: volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. So it is because VUCA more common in the workplace. Also, is VUCA attractive or even inevitable? Do you like chaos in your workplace? And there are a lot of different questions our speakers are going to talk about. So I'm passing the words to Dmitro and Robert. So the stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Volodymyr. Thank you. Hello, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Today we have the special event for you. We prepared this event with a great expert, with the founder and president of Innovation Elegance, Robert Snyder. So, guys, please upload in virtual space to your applause in virtual space to Robert. And why? Because Robert is unique expert. He has a huge, absolutely huge experience in IT area, especially in different kind of questions. We're going to talk about this on the next slide. But first of all, Robert is a great specialist that likes to combine different kind of knowledge and provide and share this knowledge with a worldwide audience. And Robert is an author of the different books related to our IT area that we are working on. So with all my pleasure, I just want to introduce you, Robert Snyder, and me, as usually, Dmitro Lozovitsky, Chief Business Analyst, IPAM. We're going to talk about the VUCA concept and VUCA versus elegance today, guys. Why? Because art of management, art of interaction in our work and life is absolutely important for all of us, not only from the perspective of the efficiency, or not only on the perspective of great communication and interaction, but first of all, this question is important for us, related to our mindset of IT specialists, that that defines everything in our professional life. So today we have the first event in this series of events of Innovation Elegance. Please just follow us in social media. Don't forget to subscribe on Robert page, on LinkedIn space, on Global BA Communities page, and of course on IIBA Ukraine chapter and IIBA general space on LinkedIn. Don't miss this chance to take part in such great events with absolutely awesome experts. Let's go forward. And you know our agenda. So today we're going to cover a lot of interesting thoughts and some kind of piece of practice that reflect art of our management in our life, in our work. For sure, we're going to discuss some kind of examples, cases for you guys. And please don't forget, you see on the screen our social media channels. Don't forget to visit them. Don't forget to subscribe on them. And you're ready to go forward. So, Robert Snyder, one more time, founder and president of Innovation Elegance. Guys, over 30 years in IT, innovation leadership, consulting, project management, applications architecture, enterprise change management, performing art. Especially these things help Robert a lot to be flexible, to be innovative, to be creative in his work. I think that Robert will will talk about that and just share with us a couple of words. Specialization of Robert, defining education and executing the next generation of innovation methodology. As you can see, guys, a lot of different certifications in IT area and valuable books. So, Robert, please introduce yourself. Maybe you want to add something. You're
Sure.
welcome.
Dimitro, thank you very much for hosting me. Greetings, everyone from Chicago in the United States. And I'm looking forward to our conversation and wherever it leads. So again, Dimitro, thank you very much for hosting me.
Thank you, Robert. And guys, maybe you know me if you visited our events on regular basis. If not, if you see my person first time, so I am convinced in that fact that only on the edge we can born something new. We can born something valuable for all of us. And we're going forward all together to create our working space better and better. So I like to share the knowledge, also to combine some different kind of experience, and to provide and invent some new approaches, new tools, and share these things with you. So about the format today. Today, we're going to provide 60-minute active discussion, best practices and examples to experts, and please follow us. Just awaiting our one-pager helper related to the VUCA concept after our event. Let's go forward. Let's start our discussion. And I see that we have some kind of technical issues. Yep.
Yeah, Dmytro, just don't want to interrupt you, but please reshare the presentation.
Okay, let me do that one more time. Right now, guys, do you see my presentation? Our presentation, sorry?
We see slide 4, no, 6. You're on slide 6. You're not in presentation mode. Well,
Yeah.
if you are, we don't see that you're in presentation mode.
I'm sorry.
Just maybe
just reshare the window completely.
Yeah, let me do that. Sorry. From time to time, we have some kind of issues, but that not stopped us. So let me do that. Let me share my screen one more time. Okay, that could happen. Okay, guys, do you see my screen right now?
Yeah, perfect.
Awesome. So the first question to you, Robert. Just what do you think about the pointy point of view? Because this is very interesting. This is very interesting thought. And what does it mean for all of us?
Yeah. So I want to give credit because I learned this concept from a professor at the Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern University. Her name is Suzanne Muchin. And so over the past few years at alumni events, she taught us this concept of a pointy point of view. And her recommendation to us is that often when we're in meetings, we'll use the word or we'll hear the word opinion. And when we use that term, we immediately reduce the value and the gravitas, the gravity of what we're saying. And she recommends that we simply start by changing the term that we use. And she suggests that we use the word point of view. Point of view. So if you like, please reduce using that word in meetings to say, my opinion is XYZ, and instead say point of view. Now, everyone has an opinion, everyone has a point of view. So to distinguish yourself and what you say, what you share in meetings, there's a difference between a point of view that is safe, it's behind the frontier. It conveys to others what they already know, and that I'll call that a cul-de-sac or a squishy point of view. This doesn't move the conversation forward, and whether overtly or covertly, the other people in the room are rolling their eyes at you when you give a cul-de-sac or a squishy point of view. And she's recommending that instead we share a pointy point of view that is on the frontier, that moves the conversation forward, that really invites others to opt out. So I chose the images here on the slide because the mug is kind of cute, a little bit arrogant, a little bit spicy. The second image is lip service, right? This is a truck of lip service. And so when you share a squishy cul-de-sac point of view in a meeting, people may nod their heads and say, yeah. They're just giving lip service. And it doesn't really allow them to opt out. So we use phrases like, well, we need to be customer centric.
Mm-hmm.
No kidding. We need to be agile. No kidding. We need, right? So these are squishy points of view. And so this material, we might cover 4 slides today. We might cover 8. All this material is quite controversial because I'm trying to minimize duplication with other authors and thought leaders. So this material is controversial. It is a pointy point of view. And the reason why that can be valuable in your work is because it allows others to opt out instead of harboring inauthenticity. And so I'm moving to the third image here. Some people will be on your bus and some people will be off your bus. But when you provide a squishy point of view, you harbor inauthenticity. You allow people to, in their heads, dissent, but really outwardly, they're just smiling and nodding. And so the concept of a pointy point of view, I believe is valuable for all of us to change. Number one, change our language. Number two, be on the frontier with what you are presenting and sharing with your colleagues. Move the conversation beyond the frontier. So instead of being a cul-de-sac and have it be a safe shrug, no kidding, Sherlock point of view, have it be pointy and invite others to if they dissent, if they don't agree with you, they can get off the bus. It's valuable to have a bus full of authentic and aligned stakeholders, and you invite others, make it very easy for them to opt out. And this way, you don't harbor insincerity and inauthenticity. So in sum, this term pointy point of view helps us to distinguish authenticity from inauthenticity.
Mm-hmm. That is awesome. And maybe this concept, this vision, has some kind of restriction. Can you highlight that in your practice?
Yeah. So one, you're asking for an example of a pointy point of view?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So there's a form of speech, there's a framework that is the pillar of the Elegance methodology. And it's inspired by a supply chain course I took 20 years ago now. And then I later realized that this framework that shapes this metaphor of an elegant expectation factory, it can replace racy, or some people call it, there's all kinds of adjectives: responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. And so what I'm recommending as this 5 verbs framework, and you'll see it on a later slide, but just so you now understand, when I say the 5 verbs, the verbs are draft, review, revise, approve, distribute. And what I'm recommending is that you discontinue using racy, because racy's been around a long time. It harbors a lot of ambiguity. It's not solving your biggest cultural problems, and it is a false sense of governance. So instead of governing with 4 adjectives, I recommend that you govern with 5 verbs. And you also avoid what I call verb sprawl. In your project plan, you might have 30, 40, 50 different verbs, and I call this verb sprawl. So my pointy point of view is that over time, when you see yourself governing with a racy, you're harboring a lot of ambiguity. And my recommendation, my recommendation is pointy, because it's okay if you opt out, but then you need to own your 4 adjectives. And if you have 40 or 50 different verbs in your project plan, holy ambiguity, Batman, you can opt out. And it's very easy for you to opt out. It's very easy for me to detect that you have opted out. And it's very easy that you must own the VUCA world, because if you've got 50 different verbs in your project plan, you are tolerating and you are encouraging VUCA. So this would be the easiest first example of a pointy point of view in my work, because it's so simple. It's almost petty and very superficial, that if you want to combat VUCA, you must emphasize a very small number of verbs and low variability in your project plan. But it's very easy for you to opt out and say, no, I like a lot of verbs. I like my exotic vocabulary in my project plan. I believe there's a time and place for your impressive vocabulary. A project plan? A project plan is not that place. I've been on a project where it became an unwritten success factor for us to use the most syllables and the most exotic vocabulary we possibly could to basically poke a stick at the people who couldn't or wouldn't show up to our meetings. It was a joke. It was a joke. So, let me pause there. 5 verbs, emphasizing 5 verbs to govern collaborative teamwork is a pointy point of view that you can easily opt out.
That is great. That is great. It totally makes sense. And I think that your comment about the RACI metrics, actually restrictions, from the moment that this tool was invented and just implemented in managerial practice, is absolutely makes sense for all of us. So let's go forward and let's move to the metaphors framework. It's something new, guys, for all of us. So Robert, please, could you explain what's this slide about?
Yeah. So this is another excellent example of a pointy point of view. For the last 20 years, we, the collective we in the innovation ecosystem, have looked to certain leadership paradigms. And the common, safe, cul-de-sac, squishy leadership paradigms are values and principles. They've done a great job, but we still have communication traffic jams and meeting gridlock and saturation and all forms of dysfunction. So I believe that as a leadership paradigm, values and principles, they're great, but they are inadequate. And to be blunt, they're off the frontier. Values and principles are not on the frontier of moving your business, your collaboration, and your culture. My recommendation is that you choose a different leadership paradigm. The leadership paradigm of metaphors. It's at a lower altitude. It's more exacting. It's more disciplined. It's less squishy, because I'm sure you can name dozens of people over the course of your career that were told the values and principles of, say, the Agile Manifesto or anything on the wall, but they weren't following those values and principles. And some executive may point to these values and principles and say, well, for us, these are not just words on the wall.
Yes.
Well, why did you feel the need to tell us that? Because some fraction of your stakeholders are treating those values and principles as just words on the wall. So we need to turn the screws. We need to increase the discipline and have more teeth and consequences when people opt out of being collaborative. So this lower altitude of a leadership paradigm are metaphors. And so what you see here on the left are the 8 metaphors that I teach about. It's in my public speaking and it's in my books. You will see a lot of performing arts there, right? You see a reference to music and dance, theater, and improv. But wait, there's more. Then there's parenting and Aikido and a flywheel. And so working with my editor, we had to expand and tweak the term performing arts to the word empathetic arts, because these arts are highly collaborative. You are highly interdependent on the other actors for ensemble success. So there is art, there is science, there is discipline, there is empathy. These are not solo sports. You don't see karaoke up here. And in the other list that you'll show later, I admit I missed karaoke in the list on the right. But let's see if I can wrap up the comments about the left side. So this is my recommendation for a new leadership paradigm. Instead of referring to values and principles, which are, to be blunt, they're squishy. They're not moving your frontier. But I think you can ask yourself and your team, what would a symphony do? What would an improv team do? What would good parents do? What would a flywheel, if we were a factory, if we were in the groove and we had rhythm, what does that look like in our daily habits? So the metaphors on the left aim to convert a culture of low expectations, also known as VUCA, because you can have a license for low expectations, and that could be a 10 or 20-minute conversation. What does it mean to minimize expectations? The second page of the Agile Manifesto says the definition of simplicity is to maximize the amount of work not done. Who's going to put that on their LinkedIn profile? Hi, I'm Robert, and I maximize the amount of work not done. Now, I understand what the software developers in 2001 were trying to do as a reaction and overreaction to what the waterfall world was in the mid and late 90s and the web, and that's fine. But it is 25 years later. And so I mention low expectations and high expectations. It's because we, as professionals, we need to own which decision, which path do we feel we are on. If we tolerate and embrace VUCA, that is a license for low expectations. And if we so I believe these tools give us a license and an inspiration, confidence, and courage for high expectations. And so the list on the right, I am trying to be somewhat playful and humorous, but I believe that these are the metaphors that I've collected over my career and in conversations where when we are in a unhealthy collaboration, we can feel we are in a traffic jam. We're moving so slow. An Olympic luge where we have no sense of, we're just at the mercy of the speed, and so forth and so on. I don't need to list all of these, but I hope you find some of these funny. But unfortunately, I believe a lot of these metaphors do describe our work environment. And this is settling for VUCA. It is settling for low expectations. And what I hope my material does is shows you very clearly, unambiguously, what does it look like to imitate the metaphors on the left?
Yeah, that is awesome approach. I think that any kind of company on market, just especially mid-size, big size, or enterprise level size, just thinking about some kind of healthy collaboration. And the great example of this collaboration, as you mentioned before, could be the client centricity, vision, concept, etc., or internal efficiency, excellence, or something like that. And guys, if you are thinking right now about the answers on that question, what should be in the basis of such things in your company, please use this slide as a checklist, and please don't try to ask any kind of questions related to these materials to our expert. So
is there one more quote at the bottom? There's a space there, Dimitro. Did I?
Yeah.
Is there something? No, or maybe that's okay.
Yeah. So and yeah, please go ahead.
Well, so I on my screen I see I wrote down there's a quote. I think I got this quote from a marketing executive.
Yeah, we have this quote. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, empathy is the ultimate form of customer insight, and I think that this is a buzzword. You know, AI is a buzzword, and empathy is a current buzzword, which I love. And in other words, it means you care. You care about what's going through the mind of the customer, of your employee. When you care, you are other-centric. You know, last time we took a flight, you had a flight attendant say, please secure your own oxygen mask before you help others. And so hopefully, again, this material helps us secure our own, have job security, career security, so that we can help others. And these metaphors really emphasize how much you care about collaborating with others.
Yeah, that is brilliant idea. So I think that we can go forward because this quote, this thought is brilliant, really. And the next slide is about RESI versus 5 verbs. Yep. So
Yeah, there is text in the upper left, and it just says 5 verbs, not 4 adjectives. And so this is a mapping. If you're familiar with RACI, this is a loose mapping. It's not precise, but it doesn't really need to be. And so this is what 5 verbs looks like in a project plan. So every now and then when I present this information, I realize that some people use RACI within swim lane diagrams in an operational context. And they're combining those 4 adjectives with any verbs that might be in their process flow. That feels too much, very complex. I've only used the RACI in an innovation context, so it governs project work. I have never used RACI in a swim lane diagram. I've used RACI to govern a swim lane diagram among other assets. But the 5 verbs is a RACI with teeth, because a RACI there are no consequences, immediate consequences for shrugging at the RACI. So these 5 red blocks show you that with 5 verbs, you accomplish everything you wanted to with the RACI, but you also get a clear sense of sequence, right? A RACI does not provide a clear sense of sequence, and 5 verbs does. 5 verbs also gives you a place to estimate duration, and a RACI doesn't give you that. And it also 5 verbs also gives you a place to say we're done. It's 100% complete, so we can move on. And so let me try to pause there. But this is just the first image of how you would map. If you like this material and you feel sufficiently frustrated with the RACI, and if you're willing to reimagine and replace your RACI, this is a first image of how you would do that. There's a quote again at the bottom of the screen, thank you. So there's a book, Chris McChesney is the author. The book is called The 4 Disciplines of Execution. And I steal quotes. I attribute them as much as possible, but I steal quotes as much as possible. And I love his quote. Execution's 2 best friends are simplicity and transparency. And 5 verbs gives you both. This framework is so insulting. It's insultingly simple. But the project plan becomes very transparent and visible, right? We know our assignments days and weeks in the future, and it's incredibly easy to change your mind. Just because something is on paper does not mean it is rigid. It means it's explicit. And that's a very important distinction, that just because something is explicit does not mean it is rigid. The ink is always wet. And so the opposite of simplicity is complexity. That's the 3rd letter of VUCA. And there are a few opposites of transparency. Maybe I should go the other way around. The 4th letter of VUCA is A, ambiguity. And I think I can think of a few opposites of ambiguity, but one of them is transparency. And so the 5 verbs helps you solve. It's not comprehensive. There's more to it. But for purposes of, a 1-hour session today, 5 verbs helps you shape a culture that is anti-VUCA. And it's those last 2 letters of VUCA that I'm profiling here in this quote. The opposite of complexity is simplicity. The opposite of ambiguity, one of the opposites, is transparency. So execution's 2 best friends are simplicity and transparency. I think this is a quote that should follow us around all the time. What else can we simplify? What else can we be transparent and vulnerable and collaborative? Minimize a single point of failure, right? We talk about single points of failure in our networking and our hardware. What does it mean to minimize a single point of failure in our people? So again, this first slide is just the first image of how you would map and translate RACI to 5 verbs to be anti-VUCA, to be on the path to solving VUCA and orchestrating, managing, leading in a way that's nothing short of elegant.
Yeah, Robert, I think that this is this is a very, very, very interesting idea, and I am just convinced in that fact that a lot of guys today on the call just hear about this version, RACI versus 5 verbs first time. So I think that they need to try to do that. And maybe you can share a piece of advice from what we need to start to implement such things at the project in the project.
Yeah, I think one early step in adopting an anti-VUCA and an elegant methodology is that you must know what's worth documenting.
Yeah.
What does your team do that's worth putting on paper, and take a pointy point of view of that inventory. So can we go to the slide with all the meeting minutes? It's hard to keep a straight face. Should I speak to this, or should we come back to it?
No. We can just we can just stay here. Yep. Till you answer the question. Yep. Or
let's you asked what would be a first step.
Yeah.
And so if we go to either the slides with the meeting minutes or the asset portfolio, so it's the two newest slides.
Yeah. Sure.
Let's show those.
Forward.
Yeah. So if it's hard to say this with a straight face, if you are an environment that is addicted to meeting minutes, this means that you're in your front seat is talk, and in your back seat, you shrug at documentation, you diminish its value, it's disposable, it is rigid, it's a dead document. Collaboration, optional. You continue to allow authority and accountability be uncoupled, and it's not glamorous. And this is a low trust environment. Now, I think I don't know if they're consecutive slides or not. Maybe 3 slides later is the asset portfolio.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this slide is my recommendation for every innovation team. This is what is worth putting on paper. What's in the front seat are these information bundles. Each of these is an information bundle. And because it's governed with 5 verbs, you know exactly who contributed and who approved, who is the tiebreaker, who is the sponsor. And what's important on this slide isn't that this slide is precisely correct. It's that this is so modular that in your company, you can decide. You can opt out to any of these 60 items. You can say, no, we would never document that. But then you may find a 61st, a 62nd item. And so it's very scalable. It's very, I would say it's very straightforward for you to add and subtract assets. So the first step in adopting an elegant methodology and solving VUCA is know what your team does that's worth being on this slide, right? Make this slide your own. What do you do that's worth not only documenting, but can withstand the rigor of 5 verbs?
Sure.
So, right, many of us work in an environment where we feel accountable for XYZ, but we feel we don't have the authority, which means some other clown has the authority without accountability. And that's a bad deal. So the 5 verbs combined with knowing exactly where all of us contribute in this communication symphony, this fuses together authority and accountability. It raises the glamour. It raises the glamour of our documentation, because now we can have pride in that project charter, in that roadmap, in that elevator pitch, in our training materials. So the combination of stability, right? Because every project has a feedback loop, and every project can continue to improve your asset portfolio. So again, this slide shows you approximately 20, 20, and 20 in 3 different areas. And then the 3 different areas is broken down into, I think, 11 groups, right? From the top left, lens of the market, et cetera. And then, so there's a hierarchy of, at the top, there's 3, and then there's 11 children, and then there's 60 grandchildren. So this sets you up to have your asset portfolio scalable. So what does your team do that can withstand the rigor of 5 verbs? This raises trust to impressive levels, just like a symphony, because I know who's playing violin. I know who's playing clarinet. I see the instrument to their mouth. I hear the noise. I see their contribution. And so that reference in the bottom right, LL, is lessons learned.
Mhm.
Too many of us are performing lessons learned or retrospectives as a check the box item because it's quite difficult. If you have a project plan with verb sprawl and racy and just so many moving parts, if you have a complex and complicated culture, it's very difficult to make your lessons learned feedback loop with integrity. And so now that we're only formally managing 5 verbs and whatever is worth 5 verbs, now our lessons learned exercise is much more straightforward because it's going to feed back into, well, do we just need to change assignments? Do we need to change durations? Do we need to change dependencies? Maybe we had 2 assets in parallel where, you know what, next time these need to be sequential, one after the other. So a lessons learned exercise becomes very straightforward because you only have a finite number of changes that you're going to make. So let me pause. Am I making sense?
Yes, absolutely. So this concept that we reviewed before, just help us to understand where we are, and how we need to build the symphony, and making some kind of synergy effect in our interaction.
Can I speak to this slide a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So you see this long red bar, which is a delay. And so this is the typical problem, not only in Kanban, in a factory, in a symphony. How long are we going to wait for Val and Will here have 11 days for whatever reason? And so the RACI can't accomplish this.
Yeah.
The RACI is never going to detect delays. Who's not doing their job? Later this week, I'm giving a presentation called Filling Your Leadership Void. Well, regardless of where the void is, in a senior ranking person or a junior ranking person, the RACI is not going to help you detect where the delays are. And also the RACI doesn't give you, I don't know, a view days, weeks in advance.
Yeah.
So you minimize surprises. So the 5 verbs, in the words of I'm going to steal another quote. W. Clement Stone's quote is small hinges swing large doors. And so the 5 verbs is a small hinge that swings a large door of culture change, of improving your discipline, improving your empathy. The words on the bottom left here, I want to explain how the assignment of approve is vital, and that shouldn't surprise us. So let's first take this word sponsor. For a project, for any work stream, to have one sponsor, it's a big role. And for many of us, we're experiencing sponsor absenteeism. There's a leadership void. We have a problem with our sponsor. So what is the cliche about handling something that's too big to manage? You break it down into smaller pieces. And so when you have 20, 40, 60 assets, just like the other slide, you effectively are assigning micro sponsors. So in this example on this slide, Yolanda is the micro sponsor saying this work is worth the upfront cost of documentation. Because without Yolanda, this work would be unsponsored. And we can talk about, well, then what should you do in a case where work is unsponsored? And this is an example of where leaning into a documentation oriented framework like 5 verbs helps you avoid and prevent over documentation, because the moment you are unable to assign one of these verbs, you get to do that work at the pub. If you can't populate, I don't know, draft, if you have no Tracy, you can say to your boss, hey boss, we're shorthanded. I mean lean. I mean shorthanded. And I don't have anyone to draft, blah, blah, blah. I don't have anyone to review and revise. I don't have anyone to approve. So instead of documenting this work, we're going to do it at the pub. We're going to have this conversation 60 minutes. We're not going to document anything. We're not going to document anything, which will raise the cost of us to share information, collaborate, and it will raise the cost to change our mind undermining the spirit of Agile. So the reference to tiebreaker anticipates that, in a large enough company, you're going to have two different departments, two different lines of business. So we could understand here in this example, Val, Will, and Shin might be leaders or contributors from different lines of business, different departments. And what are the chances that they're going to disagree about something? Pretty high. So let's understand in advance, well, who is the tiebreaker? And again, in this case, Yolanda is the tiebreaker, where Val, Will, Shin are optimizing locally. Yolanda is responsible for optimizing globally. So the 5 verbs sets you up to distinguish. Let's minimize silos, but let's also avoid too many cooks in the kitchen. But let's have a clear tiebreaker so that we can, I joke, love each other in the morning. Disagreeing is okay. Demonizing is not okay. And this is another culture trait that 5 verbs helps solve. Disagreeing is okay. Demonizing, not okay. Task conflict is okay. Personality conflict is not okay. A boxing ring of ideas, yes. A boxing ring of people, no. So the assignment of approve is a form of micro-escalation. And this is where we pursue creativity and collaboration, because this is the good friction. Now you see that row where it's 11 days. That's bad. That's probably bad friction, but just the 5 verbs forces you to collaborate. It says collaboration is not optional. It is mandatory. Unapologetically, let's manage for collaboration. And so the quote on the right, repetition is the mother of learning, the father of action, which makes it the architect of accomplishment. So I believe that your team is in a very healthy place if you're just constantly thinking, what's next that is worth 5 verbs? What is next that's worth 5 verbs? Because it's going to be transparent, it's going to be collaborative, it's going to have a sponsor, and you free up your mind, because now that you've mastered the mechanics, right, just like a dancer, once I master the mechanics of my footwork, where does my brain power, where does my attention go? It goes to my style, my dance partner, the other people on the dance floor. Are we about to collide? Is the song over? Do I need to rotate? So this is a form of muscle memory, right? 5 verbs creates a sense of muscle memory in your team, which is a form of automation.
Yeah.
Which, again, allows us to look upstream and shift left. Business analysts want to be involved earlier. So once we master the mechanics, then we have much more freedom to be expressive, entrepreneurial, strategic. And so I believe that there's a lot of value. This is another way to describe the value of the 5 verbs, is so we master the mechanics so that we just don't have to give them any attention anymore.
Yes, totally agree with you. And I think that one more question from our guys. So Robert, please tell how much time actually, and how many efforts do we need to spend, just based on your huge experience, to implement such kind of behavior inside the teams?
So I believe the word that comes to mind is psychological safety. If you are in a team where you feel psychologically safe to change your habits, I don't think we included, Dimitri, you and I tried to limit our slides in this presentation. I do have a slide that shows 10 options.
Sure.
I don't think it'll be in this presentation. It's 10 options for adoption.
Yeah.
So my recommendation, the word you said, Dimitri, was how many times?
How many efforts and how much time?
But I don't understand if the question is about the past, like how many companies have implemented this, or how much time would it take?
How much time would it take?
Got it.
So I just want to know that.
I think there's a number of factors. Number one, how frustrated are you? Right? Because if you're, and there's another cliche here, nothing will change until the status quo. I see another question coming in. Yes. Okay. The quote here is, nothing will change until the status quo is more painful than the transition. Again, nothing will change until your status quo is more painful than the transition. So the amount of time that it would take you to adopt this, if you and your colleagues are not that frustrated, then you might shrug at all of this material. You may say, you know what, my world is just fine. I don't need a people-centric methodology. There are those teams where Agile seems to be working well. But back to psychological safety, for any one person who's hearing my voice right now, if you have 2 trusted colleagues, 4 trusted colleagues, and this is a great slide to reference this, find where you currently work. If you are a business analysis professional, you are likely, I'm going to start right in the middle. You might be working in a single project or project-specific work. It's early, so you're working on process documentation. And so do these assets resonate with you? Customer lifecycle model, future state scripts, future state process flows. As a business analyst, you might wonder, well, we don't even have current state process flows. Well, then we can jump to the upper right. And I can identify 7 distinct current state assets that I believe every team should be putting on paper. And so if this is intuitive, and so maybe that's, if I tried to make my answer short, maybe it's the word intuitive. As you look at this asset portfolio, find the path of least resistance, which feels the easiest to add. Because I believe the average listener today, of these 60 assets, the more experienced business analysts and innovation professionals, you are already going to be familiar with 40 or 50 of these. And so it shouldn't be taxing. It shouldn't take long to identify which additional asset do you want to add and why. And then the word that keeps coming to mind is adjacency. Don't leap from one part of this asset portfolio to another. Just gradually go upstream, gradually go downstream, and keep adding assets, govern them with 5 verbs, and just keep adding and keep refining, right? Tuning the orchestra for your team, for what's intuitive for them to bundle this information. You know, when I say bundle, I mean that very literally, because let's say a project charter in the middle left, I suspect many of us have seen a project charter that's either too big or too small.
Yeah.
Right? That's understandable. So if it's too small, let's say like a stakeholder list, that's just a list of names. Like, would you manage the stakeholder list on its own? Well, maybe, but that's at your discretion. Here, sitting in a podcast, I'm just recommending that you be conscientious and mindful of how big is each of your information bundles. And then you could have a project charter that's too big, and you have a reason to break it up into smaller pieces, again, whatever that looks like. And then, again, arrange it, organize it, schedule it as part of this communication symphony.
Awesome.
So yeah, the best place to adopt adjacencies, path of least resistance, what feels easy, because this shouldn't, while collaboration is hard work, it's not painful. And hard work is good, because that's why we are well paid.
Thank you so much, Robert. Let's go forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we have the slide about the bar charts, also very interesting.
Yeah. So was there a question? I think I can answer that question quickly. It was about the boxing ring. Yeah. So the 3 culture traits, and these phrases I think are very helpful. Disagreeing is okay. Demonizing is not okay. Yeah. Task conflict is okay. It's good friction. Personality conflict is not okay. That's bad friction. A boxing ring of ideas is great. A boxing ring of people, not great. Yeah. So I only saw that question flash up for a moment, but hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so the bar chart. So these are 2 different cost profiles. The bar chart on the left represents a culture that is addicted to meetings. You might be suffering from meeting gridlock, and you have communication traffic jams. Why is that culture understandable? It's because of the short blue bar.
Mm-hmm.
The short blue bar represents you calling that next meeting, RSVPing for that next meeting, and attending the next meeting. It's just cheap and easy. Totally understandable. But if you start complaining about having too many meetings, that is also understandable because of the tall orange bar. This is high marginal cost. So of course, I'm going to recommend that you invert your cost profile. And I can give some examples of why, as scale becomes more important, as the traffic volume in your world increases, you want to transition from the bar chart on the left to the bar chart on the right. But there's an unpopular aspect to the bar chart on the right. Why is creating documentation often unpopular? It's the tall blue bar. It's the hard work. So I'm not going to deny this. But then why do we document things at all? It's the short orange bar. Because now that we have the right documentation in place, it is now low marginal cost to share that information, to collaborate, and to change our mind. So instead of technological agility as defined by the Agile Manifesto and emphasizing speed and frequency, how about we emphasize financial agility? And that's low marginal cost, but it's not free. So I love this quote. And if anyone has kids, especially teenagers, I think you want to say this quote to your teenagers, but it also applies to us. That bar chart on the left, do what is easy and your life will become hard. So that means, meeting minutes. We're going to delegate this to AI. That is a pointy point of view, right? Everyone, what seems to be very popular right now is, we don't have to document anything now. AI is going to do it for us. Well, you have to decide how much faith do you put in this quote? Because if you do what is easy, your life will become hard. Yeah. And again, every teenager, tell them, do what is hard and your life will become easy. And those of us who have had successful careers and we've learned a lot, we've met great people, we have great experiences. Some of it is painful, but a lot of it is hard work. And so what I am trying to do is encourage teams to do the hard work of the 5 verbs. I'm not saying it's easy, but I am saying it's straightforward. And when you do the hard work of 5 verbs, your life will become easy. So are there some words on the right that you can expose?
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, I went through a lot of these. Your cost profile, whichever you choose, again, it's a pointy point of view, but there's no excuse for inauthenticity. Choose your cost profile, own your cost profile. Either is valid, but you have to decide that third word, scale. You have to decide whether your company or your team and the communication volume is large enough to justify scale. Can you justify the infrastructure on the right bar chart? But I would then ask you, which fosters speed? I believe it's the bar chart on the right.
Yeah.
That is a city building a train system. That is infrastructure. And so I have a misspelling there. Sorry. You must invert. I believe that if you feel you are caught in communication traffic jams, you must invert your cost profile. And it is similar to building a train system. A couple of fun examples. If I'm a conference of 5 people, I'm not going to get name tags for 5 of us. But looking at that bar chart on the left, as the population of my conference grows to 10 people, 20 people, 50 people, at some point, the marginal cost of introducing each other, remembering each other's names, it's just not worth it. You know what is worth it? Name tags. If I'm a restaurant that only serves 2 pieces of food and 2 beverages, then maybe a written menu is overkill. But as soon as I have 10 dishes and 10 beverages and 10 desserts and 10 servers, then you know what's that in that tall blue bar? a written menu. Right? This is not rocket science. We need the visuals, we need the simple frameworks and constructs to understand why. Because again, with documentation, I think all of us have this vague notion that we cannot simply talk our way to success. Keystrokes matter. Keystrokes matter.
Absolutely.
So let's get more precise. We don't have to be perfect, but we can be precise. Is it 60? Is it 61 assets? But so again, as you reject VUCA and transition to an elegant culture, you are just like building a train system. You don't build a whole huge train system in 1 year, right? It's incremental. And so that's what my material does. It helps you identify small information bundles to govern under 5 verbs. And what you are effectively doing is transitioning from the cost profile on the left to the cost profile on the right.
Exactly. I can't add anything more. So, yeah, and
this
comparison of 3 columns.
Yeah. So this blank table. So I would challenge and invite your listeners. Back up, but don't show that quite yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So what am I trying to do here? I am trying to compare and contrast generations of innovation methodology. And so the 1990s, maybe you only had that left column because Agile wasn't on anyone's radar. And then the Agile Manifesto was published in 2001. And maybe for the next, 10, 15, 20 years, you started populating that second column. What does it mean to be Agile? And now no one is purely one or the other. I'm generalizing, but very few companies are 100% waterfall, 100% Agile. So the default is that most companies are operating in what they call a hybrid. And really a hybrid, it is incredibly squishy. It's not a pointy point of view, because hybrid says, well, we're just taking the best or the worst of both and get off my back. And, and so I believe that that's where we are today. 2025, we are in this hybrid world. And this material recommends that you move on. So that's the columns. And so any of your listeners, I would invite you, how would you build this table to be your own? Now let's talk about the rows. Scope size, right? Traditional and Agile, they take a different stance, or at least their reputation. The aggressiveness of documentation, the emphasis on documentation, right? They're different. Those first 2 columns, they're different. Frequency of go live events, right? Traditional says the frequency of go live events, the frequency is low. And Agile says your frequency is high. And then Agile also over the past 20 years has claimed a culture of speed, insinuating that traditional, all those non-Agile projects, but by definition, they're just slow. And also go ahead. Do you want to react to that so far? Just those 8 boxes?
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. All right. So the next row, predictability. I believe that a current trendy topic is, are you predictive? Which there's some people that's not they don't want to be predictive. Like, well, then what are you going to do? Why do you even conduct a lessons learned? Or because we need to be adaptive. So again, I don't need to explain the rest of the rows, but I would invite your listeners again, what does this table look like to you? This is one person's table. It's mine. And what different rows come to mind for you? How do you distinguish these different generations of innovation methodology? Okay, so go ahead and expose the next. So this is how I populate.
Yep.
So I think any of you who have been involved in conversations, waterfall versus Agile, those first 4 rows are I think that's where most of those conversations happen. And it's, it's interesting that there has to be 4 rows. What do you mean? What do you mean by agile? Here's what I mean by agile, because it's squishy, because it's for everyone. And just like my editor told me about my book, Robert, if your book is for everyone, then your book is for no one. Well, you know what? If agile is for everyone, then I'm going to say it's for no one. So, okay, let's go on to the next row. Predictability, predictive versus adaptive. And the hybrid world is telling you you have to choose between the two. And the last column, my stance is you do not. You want to be both. Predictive means you're imitating a symphony and you're on script. Being adaptive means you're imitating an improv team and you are off script. Either's fine. Not knowing is not fine. And being unable to switch. If you are strictly improv, that's a problem. If you are strictly a symphony, that's a problem. So, what else? Speed. I believe at the moment, many of us are treating speed as a leading culture trait. That's where the cell that says fast and hurry. Yeah. Hurry, hurry, hurry. I hope you didn't pay full price for that MBA. What's your leadership style? Hurry. Great. Instead, I'm recommending that you treat speed as a lagging culture trait. If speed is a lagging culture trait, it demands a leading culture trait, and that is synchronization. And that is what the finiteness of the 5 verbs and the asset portfolio give you. It's finite, and we can even do the math. 5 verbs on 4 rows times 60 assets. 60 times 4 is 240. It's a lot. It passes my sanity test. It's not 2,000, and it's not infinite, right? So I can create a symphony out of whatever is finite. The next row, cost profile, the disciplined agile phrase is just barely good enough. And this is cultivating a culture of cheapness and low upfront cost. So my pointy point of view, this jabs disciplined agile. Well, if you like this phrase, just barely good enough, it just tells me you're being cheap and you're going to bastardize the term lean. And it just tells me you're shorthanded. But the cost profile that I see too often is that we have low upfront cost because we're addicted to meetings. Meetings are our comfort zone. And this leads to high marginal cost. It leads to saturation. It leads to communication traffic jams. In the bottom row, it allows authority and accountability to be uncoupled. And so what I'm recommending, if you go ahead and advance or show the colored circles, these red circles, I discourage. This is VUCA. And what I'm recommending is that you adopt habits that include the 5 verbs and other templates. The 5 verbs is approximately 50% of the value proposition of the whole body of work. Again, for purpose of a session, I'm conscious of the time, Dimitro. For purpose of this session, this green circle, this is the culture that I'm asking you to consider. Instead of being obsessed with speed and frequency, I hope you will become obsessed with synchronization and low marginal cost. That's scalable. It's profitable. You are both predictive and adaptive. You imitate a symphony. In an orchestra, the performers, they put down their instruments. The violin players, they're not always playing. They have the best seats in the house. And the 5 verbs helps us fuse together authority and accountability. Yeah. And that is an ensemble that I would love to work in.
Yeah, that is a great accent for, I think, all of our participants. And guys, if you have any additional questions, please don't forget to write them in chat. And Robert, I think that we can just go forward to the VUCA. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, VUCA, VUCA concept versus elegance.
So I probably earlier, I should realize that some of your listeners, they have not heard this acronym before. And so earlier in this session, I probably should have explained what VUCA is. And so this material, it just aims for the opposite. But what I also realized over the last few months is that there are other culture traits that are emerging that I discourage. And again, I'm hoping that the text is the right color, but can you advance one?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So I believe that many of us are caught in hyper competitive environments. I was just at an event just yesterday, where someone told me, Robert, you don't understand our lessons learned meetings. All they are finger pointing sessions. We're just looking for a scapegoat. It's not about improving the process. It's just finding someone to blame. And he
Yeah.
was very open with me about just this hostile culture. And everyone is working 60 hours a week. What constitutes success and keeping your job is that you put in 60 hours, that you showed up. And so this, I want to label what's dysfunctional. There's power in the right labels. And I want you to be able to label what is VUCA. And so the opposites of all of these, the 5 verbs, the asset portfolio, the opposite of volatile is smooth, right? I don't want our project plans to be lumpy. I just like the sound of the word lumpy, but I don't want to be lumpy. I want smooth. I want rhythm. I want us to have confidence, right? That second letter of VUCA, as our asset portfolio stabilizes and we know, you know what, every project we're going to be documenting these, 40 things, these 60 things. We improve the confidence in our work. It's simple, it's clear. Instead of being hyper competitive, we are aiming for being hyper collaborative. Instead of being a hostile environment, we are hospitable. Because we can always absorb a 12th violin player, a 13th violin player. Instead of being saturated, minimizing idle workers, let's be synchronized to minimize latency and waiting so that we minimize idle work. And that is another important, it's a subtle but important difference, is that too many organizations right now are aiming for 0 idle workers. That is fatigue and that is burnout. What I'm instead recommending is that you pursue low idle work.
Yeah.
Right? That's an important difference.
Absolutely. And I think that right now our guys just see the main accent, the main difference that you explained right now. And I guess that this is very, very, very important. I guess the valuable part that could be added to your managerial basis, dear colleagues. And that means that you can just start to investigate the concepts in the books of the Robert, and just to think about, just to dive deep in that process. And in our next events, we're going to explain with more details how we're going to do that or this, etc., with best recommendations from Robert's side. And I think that these accents is extremely important, especially in uncertain environment on the market that we have right now. And in our activities, we need to be oriented on such things, to be collaborative, to be hospitable, to be synchronized. Absolutely agree with your opinion. And Robert, what
My point of view.
else? Yeah, your point of view. Sure. Yeah. This is very, very interesting thoughts and very valuable thoughts, because art of management just going to start from our consciousness, from our thoughts, from our ideas. So that is why if you want to be super efficient manager, you need to think, you need to be a thinker, you need to think about the new concepts, new vision, new things that you can apply or you could apply in your practice every time, without any kind of breaks on coffee. I'm joking, but guys, take this in account and think about. So let's go forward, I believe. Yep. And accountability.
So this is when I mentioned that the 5 verbs is approximately 50% of the value proposition. This is one example of the other 50% of the value proposition. So this notion of approachability, to use another metaphor, to use one of the metaphors, this factory. This slide is an example of the lubrication for the factory, right? Every factory, every moving vehicle needs oil, needs lubrication. And so the approachability menu, this is one example, and there's approximately 8 to 10 tools that are very similar to this tool that, again, promote good friction and discourage bad friction. So this approachability menu, the origin of this was that a colleague of mine, this is maybe 10 years ago, a colleague of mine only worked for my company for 18 months. They were fired after 18 months. And I knew her 3 bosses. And my conclusion was, this was not a followership problem. This was a leadership problem because I knew her 3 bosses over those 18 months. And I started asking questions to myself. Was this person surprised? Were they coached? Were they coachable? Were they approached? Were they approachable? I wanted to create a tool to minimize the chance that this would happen again, that someone would be surprised being fired, and to minimize the chance that someone was uncoached and uncoachable, minimize the chance that they are unapproached and unapproachable. I want to maximize our approachability. And I need to anticipate that someone is going to say, Robert, I don't have time. I don't have time to give feedback. I want to create a tool that is only asking you for a check mark. Okay. So again, I'm committed to task conflict, not personality conflict. I'm committed to disagreeing, and you cannot demonize. Can I channel all, and many of us have received unhelpful feedback, or we've given unhelpful feedback. And so this aims to minimize unhelpful feedback. And it narrows into the 3 communication channels. So you see the text in green. The first communication channel is your meeting etiquette. The second communication channel is your email or messaging, asynchronous messaging, Teams, Slack, etc., your messaging etiquette. And then third, of course, is your documentation contribution. And so what this tool sets you up to do is be approachable and be coached about your meeting etiquette. So in this example, there's a check mark under the word more. So this person is saying, let's say I collected this information from my colleagues. What they're saying is, Robert, I would like more punctuality from you. You're often late to meetings. I would like you to participate more. You're irrationally quiet. You are irresponsibly quiet. Or I need more multitasking. You're on your phone a lot in meetings. All right. So there's only 3. These are the easiest 3 meeting etiquette, behaviors that I thought of. In the book, in another presentation, I can think of 15. If I brainstorm, what are all the different meeting behaviors? I count approximately 15 meeting behaviors, but I just limit this to 3 because it fits on a slide. Email etiquette. I think I can think of about 10 different email behaviors. This example says, Robert, I'd like you to be more responsive. You might say to me, Robert, anytime I send you an email, I expect there to be a 2-week delay. I know that your responsiveness stinks. Right? And I need to be coachable on these things. Or maybe I reply all the 7th or 8th time to like 30 people. Oh my God. Or maybe I'm putting valuable information in an email that belongs in a document. It belongs in the project charter. It belongs in the process flow. So again, we can coach each other and be approachable about these things. Is it personal? Yes. Is it about personality? No. Yeah. And then the final section is, it's about the 5 verbs, but you only see 4 here. You may say, Robert, you know what? You're drafting a lot of stuff, but you're senior enough where you need to be approving. Your name needs to be next to approve, not draft, or maybe the other way around. So again, it's just 2 columns. And if you're fine, then it's blank. Now, I have had some feedback that folks do want to add a 3rd column that just says no change, or this is okay, you're doing great. So again, this is lubrication. This is empathy, asking, Am I being who you need me to be? It's humility. It's two-way accountability, because your boss needs to be approachable. Your boss's boss needs to be approachable, or you need to be able to label them as unapproachable. So again, it's a pointy point of view. It's modular. You can make this template your own. If you like meeting etiquette, but you want different meeting behaviors, you can do that. So again, this is a very scalable. It's not static. I'm just encouraging you to use a template like this to minimize leaving approachability to chance. Let's make this systematic. Let's make it a habit. Let's make it an expectation. And this is a license for high expectations. I have high expectations that you are qualified and confident and psychologically safe to give and receive feedback. Because I can still disagree. If I'm, let's say I'm on my phone a lot, but it's because my wife is about to have a baby, and I need to know. That's why I'm on my phone. So I can defend multitasking. And so this helps us have the more pragmatic debate about our behaviors in communication. So this raises psychological safety. It raises morale. And jokingly, I subtitled this approachability menu. I know you hate me, but what do you want me to do differently?
That is awesome. Yeah, I think that this is really one more, guys, for all of us, one more interesting and valuable tool in our tool set. Yep. So
this tool is one of approximately 10 that is not under the umbrella of 5 verbs. So there's a lot more to this if and when you'd like more.
Yeah. And finally, the books. Yep. So guys, please find these books on Amazon. They are on the store, so you can just order these books. And I think that Robert can just say about these books a couple of words about each book. Yeah, and again, we'll see. Please, we'll take a look on our post as a follow-up of this meeting, and with more information about these books on LinkedIn page. And we have 2 of them right now, 3 of them. The 3rd book will be published. Yeah, Innovation Elegance. This is the first one. Robert, what do you want to say? What do you want to add here?
Yeah. So I had to separate the material during the edits. I hope this would fit in one book. No. So that's why I had to partition this material into 2 books. The first book, I'll say it stays out of the weeds. The second book is in the weeds. Mm-hmm. The first book emphasizes the metaphors of a factory and the performing arts. The second book is all about the documentation, what's worth putting on paper. And that's why the subtitle is 5 verbs shape your team's legacy, right? 5 verbs shapes what you leave behind, what your next team will inherit. So the second book, Innovation Portfolio, it's the 60 things that I recommend your team put on paper, and it explains the arrangement, the organization. It also includes information for skeptics, because as you consider a people-centric methodology, you yourself might be a skeptic. So I address skeptics in the book. And even if you like and you adopt and pursue this material, you are going to encounter skeptics. So the second book also helps you anticipate and how to respond to the skeptics. And again, back to the first book, the first half is all about, it's about the factory. Even though your team might not literally be a factory, you want to manage it like one, because you care about all the same things. Your team cares about its economics, its speed, its quality, its waste, its variability, the level of vigilance it needs. How much autonomy do you have? How much automation do you have? That's the first half of the first book. And the second half of the first book is all about the arts, parenting, the martial art of Aikido, which is exaggerating counterproductive behavior into absurdity, because many of us need the skills to detect counterproductive bullying, aggressive, hyper-aggressive behavior, and we need the skills to exaggerate those attacks into absurdity, which is why the martial art of Aikido is applicable. And then it goes into the performing arts of music, dance, improv, and theater. So that's the first book.
Awesome. So, guys, please don't forget that a little things adds up to big results every day, every day. So that is why we need to improve ourselves. That is why we are here. So thank you so much for your attention, for your time, for your work today with us, with our absolutely great expert, Robert Snyder. And we are going to continue this Innovation Elegance event series with Robert. So if you are interested in, please don't forget to see the announcements and to stay with us. So guys, one more time, the Robert LinkedIn page link is on the screen. Thank you so much, Robert. It was a real piece of pleasure just to see you, to hear your voice, to absorb your experience, and to share your thoughts with all our audience. Thank you so much, Robert.
It's my pleasure, Dimitro, and I look forward to whatever's next.
We will continue. Yeah. So, guys, please provide your likes on LinkedIn page for Robert for this event and for the future events as well. And don't forget to follow up on our social media pages. See you next time. Have a great day. Have a great start of the summertime. And let's stay with us. With us, you get a lot of valuable and interesting information. See you. Thank you and bye.